right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, the prejudging for the 2025 Tampa Pro, one of the most talked about shows over the last couple of weeks. Just wrapped up, and it was about as exciting as I thought it was going to be. That first call out was mostly the guys that we talked about going into the show: Bruno Santos, John Jewett, Jordan Hutchinson, Quint Beastwood, John De La Rosa, and the other guy in the royal blue trunks. I don't think we talked about him as much or at all. Joseph Palacios. That guy was a unit. He was a shorter guy, but he was built like a brick shit house. This guy was stacked. When I was watching the individual routines and I saw him come out, he was one of the guys that really stood out the most to me just because I wasn't as familiar with him. And he has a crazy physique, super dense, ton of muscle. He was in great shape here, probably looking at fifth, maybe even fourth. I kind of prefer his physique, definitely to Bruno, and maybe over John. And obviously, I think noticeably absent from this first call-out, Beef Stew, Patrick Moore, Emir Omaragic. We're going to talk about them in a second because they had their own battle in the second call-out. But for the most part, in the center of this first call-out, Jordan Hutchinson, who we talked about a lot, Quinton Beastwood, who we talked about a lot, and it looks like John Jewett is probably also in that top three. But it looks like to me, it looks like they're going for either Jordan or Quinton. But definitely watching this first call out, it seemed pretty clear to me that it was John, Jordan, and Quinton. Those are your pretty clear top three. I think they're probably going to drop, if you're going to turn this into a four-man call out, I think they're probably going to drop definitely Bruno and possibly De La Rosa, and they're probably going to do four without them. But let's go into the second call out here. I was kind of surprised by this. I kind of felt like watching this call out, and it was a pretty long call out. It felt to me like this was between Stu and Patrick as far as winning this second call out. And I think Emir also looked really good and stood out to me in this lineup. Now, I do consider both Stu and Patrick to be somewhat friends of mine. But I will say, between the two of them, my eyes were drawn to Patrick more in this call-out. I feel like he was just overall a little bit more visually appealing than Stu. Obviously, Patrick is a very aesthetic guy. I thought he was in pretty good shape here for what we've been seeing from Patrick. I'd say this was pretty close to around the same as the Legion version of Patrick, which was a good version of Patrick. I just felt like as this call-out went on, I think Stu started to fade a little bit, and Patrick seemed to get a little bit crisper. He seemed to pop a little bit more as the call-out went longer, and towards the end, my eyes were drawn to Patrick. But I still felt like this call-out was between the two of them. I thought the two of them were leading this call-out, so I was surprised to see that after this, the four-man call-out that followed, so this would have been for placings 5, 6, 7, and 8, had Patrick and Emir in that call-out. As well as, like I just said earlier, this is what I thought was going to happen, Bruno and John. So Bruno and John got dropped from the top four, moved into the official second call-out here, which is going to be for placings 5 through 8, along with Patrick and Emir. Now, I felt like Stu was going to be in this call-out. So I'm thinking that Stu is probably going to end up in 9th place unless something changes for finals. I do agree with Patrick over Stu. I don't necessarily agree with Emir over Stu. But for me, this four-man call-out, I think it's pretty clear that John is leading this call-out. I think John was looking at 5th even in the first call-out. This is going to be, like I said, this call-out is for 5th to 8th. And of 5th to 8th, I think John is definitely in the lead. So John is probably looking at 5th. It looks like they've got Bruno probably right behind John. So it looks like Bruno will probably be 6th. I don't know if I really agree with that. I kind of prefer Patrick to Bruno here. I preferred Patrick to Bruno at Legion, and I feel the same way at this show. I would go Patrick in 6th, Bruno in 7th, Emir in 8th, but I think they will go John 5th, Bruno 6th, Patrick 7th. To me, this is not the same Bruno that we saw beat Nathan Diasha. This is probably closer to the same Bruno that we saw at Legion. And like I said, with Patrick, it was pretty on par with what we saw with Legion, Patrick at Legion. Patrick beat him there. I would have Patrick beating him here too. Now, let's get to the top 4 here. Joe Palacios in the royal blue. Like I said, this is huge for him. I thought he looked fantastic here, though. I really did. Like I said, when he did his individual routine, just as far as first impressions go, before we even knew he was going to be first call-out, I thought he was one of the most impressive kind of standout guys to me just in the individuals. Ton of muscle, really dense, thick, wide as a house, and he was in really good condition. I think he will be 4th here. It looks like John Jewett is probably going to be 3rd. I think maybe the best conditioned guy in this show, maybe even more so than Jordan Hutchinson. But I think the reason that Jordan is going to be in that top 2 and John's not is I think it comes down to structure. Jordan has a better structure than John. Their conditioning was similar. I think that John was probably sharper, but Jordan has a better structure. I think he's just built better overall. I mean, look, John is a shorter guy. He's got a more compact physique, and the muscle, compared to the way it looks on Jordan's frame, it's just not as pleasing to look at. Although I think he absolutely nailed his peak here. His conditioning looked amazing. Probably the most striated glutes and hamstrings in this lineup. But conditioning-wise, Jordan was right there with him. Probably muscularity-wise, Jordan is bigger. He has more muscle. His legs were absolutely crazy. His quads really impressed me. He reminds me a lot of Branch Warren when it comes to that grainy, dense condition in the lower body. Striated glutes, really good conditioning up top too. And I think this is the biggest difference between Quinton and Jordan. So when you're trying to say who's going to win this show, I think it's either going to come down to condition or shape. I think clearly Jordan was sharper than Quinton, especially in the upper body. You could see striations in Jordan's chest and in his shoulders and a little bit more detail in some of the poses with his arms. You didn't really see that level of same, like really deep striation in Quinton's chest. But for me, this is conditioning versus shape. If you want to talk about who has by far the most aesthetically pleasing physique, whose physique are your eyes just automatically drawn to the most, it's Quinton. I said it multiple times going into this show. My favorite physique in this lineup, regardless of conditioning, is Quinton. And that's not to say he wasn't in shape here. He clearly is. He's top 2, but it's a little bit different than the type of shape that Jordan or John is in. It's just that Quinton's shape is so much better. His V-taper is so much better than both John and Jordan. His quads, his quads get some criticism. His legs in general get a lot of criticism from what I've seen. But I feel like, watching him pose, the separation in his legs was really impressive, especially in the quads. It might not be the same as Jordan's because Jordan's got some crazy quads, but I feel like my eyes were actually drawn to Quinton's quads in a lot of those front poses, especially like when he's in motion in the pose. I feel like his quads were really popping. So I think this is a very apples and oranges top 2. If you want just sheer, dense, really conditioned muscle, maybe not the best flow, maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing, I think that Jordan is going to take this home. If you prefer shape, you prefer aesthetics, decent condition, good condition, not the best, you prefer size, you go with Quinton. This feels almost like, and this is not a great comparison, it feels almost like a Samson versus Hadi Chupin situation. Of course, Hadi is going to be more conditioned, but Samson has the better overall shape, and he's bigger. So a good Samson, conditioning-wise, beats a great Hadi. And I wonder if that's kind of what we're looking at here. So, again, it's very apples and oranges. I think it's really going to be a coin toss here. I said going into this show, I think this is going to come down to conditioning. So for that reason, I feel like the judges might go with Jordan. But for me personally, I would go with Quinton. Even if Jordan is in better condition here, you guys can't tell me that your eyes weren't drawn to Quinton the entire time you're watching this call-out. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your picks? Give me your full top 8, because we're talking about the whole top 8 here. And who's your pick to win, Quinton or Jordan? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.